Okay, today I'm going to show you how to make your ball bounce off different areas of the screen. Step 1, let's make a ball. So I know a ball will need an X and a Y. I know it will need an X speed and a Y speed. So I'll declare all of those here. Now inside setup, I'll give them their values. So I want X and Y to start in the center of the screen. I want X speed to start at 1 and Y speed to start at 0. Nope, let's start it at 3. Yeah. All right. Draw. So this is so setup runs once at the very beginning. That's why we're setting all our variables up. Draw runs all the time, about 30 times a second. So here's where I want to draw my ellipse. Where do I want it to be centered? I want it to be centered at the X and Y numbers that tell me where its center is. I'm going to draw it at a size of 60 and 60. Okay. Actually, there's no reason not to make these variables also, because maybe I want the size of the ball to change while the program is running. So let's make this W and this H for width and height. So W and H, and then here I'll give them their values. I'll just start them at 60 and 60. Okay, so this let's just make sure it does what we think it should so far. Great. I recommend as you're making your programs, do them in little increments like this. Notice how I didn't try to make it move yet. I didn't try to make it bounce yet. I just want to run it all the time and add the smallest next piece that I can and then test it again to make sure it works. Because that'll make it much easier than if you try to type the whole thing and then it doesn't work and then you've got to figure out what in all of that stuff that you just typed is wrong. Okay, so I'm drawing my ball. Let's have the ball move. So I know if it's going to move, I need to change its x-coordinate. So I'm going to add something to the x-coordinate in order to change it. What number I put here is going to be the speed my ball moves at. So I could give it a number like it's going to move 5 to the right, or I could say it's going to move -5 pixels to the left. But I'm going to use the variable x speed, and whatever number is in here is going to be the speed of the ball. All right. Let's have it move with the Y speed now. All right, let's do a little experiment. Let's just make sure this runs. Cool, there it goes. I'm going to comment out this line so that it won't move in the Y direction anymore. Now it just moves in the X direction very slowly. Let's check if the key is being pressed. And let's check if the key equals the space key. What I want to do is if the key equals the space key, I want to say x speed equals -1 times x speed. So let's think what's going to happen there. If the ball was moving at a speed of 1 and I hit the space bar, I'll take that speed of 1 and I'll multiply it by -1. So now that's -1. So it's setting my new speed to be like the opposite of the old speed. So if my old x speed was 1 and my new x speed is -1, what's that going to look like when the ball is moving? It must be when I was adding +1 every time, the x coordinates were going up, so the ball was moving to the right. As soon as I hit space and x speed becomes negative, now when I hit this line of code, I'm taking my x position and I'm subtracting 1 every time. So now the ball is moving left. So all I've done is when you hit the space bar, this is going to change the ball from moving right to moving left, which is sort of like what you want it to do when it's bouncing. Let's just make sure it works. So I hit the space bar, and every time I hit the space bar, it switches directions. You might notice that sometimes when I hit the space bar, it keeps going in the same direction. What's actually happening is the following. I told you that draw is looping many, many times a second. So even though to me it seems like I just hit space really quickly, what actually happened is while I was pressing space down, draw happened a couple of different times. So it reversed the direction of my ball, but then before I could lift my finger off the space key, it went around again and it reversed the direction of the ball again. So from my perspective, it kind of looks like it didn't change at all. So let's do this in a new way now. This is the other way you can use the keyboard that I didn't tell you about yet. We are outside of the draw method entirely. We're down here below the draw method. And there's another method that we can make called keyReleased. This is a special predefined method, so it has to look like this exactly. It has to say void, the R has to be capital, there can be no inputs. KeyReleased is run automatically whenever your key gets released. So let's think about it. Let's imagine you press the P key down and you hold it down. Even though you've pressed the key down and you're holding it down, this code is not run yet. Now let's say I let go of the P key. The moment I let go of the P key, I have released it, and so this method will run exactly once. So this is a nice method to use if you want to make sure that your that whatever happens in here is only going to happen one time per key press. So because it's not inside a loop that might happen a bunch of times. All right, so now it's inside KeyReleased. I'm asking what was the key that just got released? Is it the space key? If the answer is yes, I want to reverse direction. So let's run it. And now you see no matter what, it's reversing direction. Okay, so let's modify this code again. I don't want it to change direction. Well, hold on. Let's think about this. This code, even though it looks strange, you think this will change the X direction of the ball. All right, so we're going to sort of pretend this is a single command now because we know what it does. So if we drop this in somewhere else, like let's say we just drop this in right here, that would mean that we're changing direction all the time, 30 times a second. And as you see, the ball kind of jitters back and forth a little bit, so that makes sense. Okay, so when do we want it to change direction? We only want it to change direction when it's hit a wall. So let's put in an if statement to ask, has it hit a wall? I'm going to move my wall in a little bit from the edge. So let's see, I know if x was bigger than 600, it would be past the edge. I'm going to say if x is bigger than 500. So if x is larger than 500, now I want to have that single line that will change the speed. If x is larger than 500, I don't want to change the actual x coordinate because I don't want it to like warp to somewhere else. I want to keep it right there at the wall. It's just that the way that the x coordinate is changing should reverse. Instead of the x coordinate increasing, now we want it to decrease because that's going to look like a bounce. I want it to bounce in another place also. Not just if x is bigger than 500, but let's say if x is smaller than 100, which should be this sort of left-hand-ish side of the screen. All right, let's run it. So the ball's going. Great. And so this must have been about where 500 was because it changed direction there. And now it's going. And it looks like it bounced approximately where 100 was. All right. Danger, danger, danger. Some people want to put equal signs here. Let's say that my ball is traveling at a speed of 5. And I'm saying if the ball has hit 500, change its direction. And there, oh, it worked. Well, that wasn't supposed to work. Let's try it again. What if we make the x speed equal to 10? Oops, still working. Why is it working? Oh, I see why it's working. I'm going to start it at 301. Okay, it just went right past where I wanted it to go past. Why did it not stop at 500? What's happening is my x-coordinate started at 301, and every time in my loop, I'm adding my x speed, and the x speed is 100. So first time through, I draw the ellipse at an x-coordinate of 300. Then 301. Then I add 100. So now my x-coordinate is 401, and I draw it. The next time through, my x-coordinate, when I add 100, is 501. That's not equal to 500, so it doesn't reverse direction. Instead, it'll just happily draw it and keep going. So what's happening is, because our x speed was so fast, it's like we're jumping over the exact coordinate that you want it to reverse directions at. So that's why we usually say if it is larger than or equal to 500. Because larger than or equal to means that it is either right at the point we want it to reverse, or it's a little bit past the point we want it to reverse. Either way, we want it to reverse. So now Now it's bouncing back and forth at a pretty good speed. Alright, if we want it to now bounce off the y sides, we're going to do this exact same thing but with y coordinates. So I'll say if y is bigger than 500, let's change the y speed. If y is smaller than 100, let's change the y speed. So now it should bounce off all of our invisible edges. Okay, well, how do we actually make it bounce off the corners of the screen? That's up to you. All you have to do is figure out what are the edges of the corner of the screen and have the if statements detect if it's hitting those places. Okay, let's pause it here. Tune in next time to see how you can display text on the screen.